space is a space that we can just experience with our eyes. It's something. It's a place in which we can't enter. So, for example, this is a hole in a wall through which you can see this scenery, but you can. Yes, of course you can, but in your normal life you can't arrive inside it. So this kind of space is something that in the modern urban planning doesn't exist. It's something which is an error or something that remains from traumas or from different experience that urban life try to. Hi. That urban life tries to repress. So in this case, what I want to present you is the presence of the fourth space and something like this in Palermo, in my city, which the majority of these episodes coming from Second World War or from other event of destruction, maybe more powerful and more violent, which happened after the Second World War. I don't want to propose an apology of the ruin or something like, okay, to be ruined is cool, it's something that we... But I want to propose that these kinds of evidence impact in the way in which people live in the city and the way in which people elaborate their culture in a place. So I think that just the idea of the normality of a normal city in which this kind of episodes are repressed is an homologation of personal experience that is something poorer than this. So, fourth space is something that, for example, if walking in a street, for example, the lack of one building is something that provokes in you a point of break in your normal experience. But there are people which were born there in this street that live their day life in this street, and this is something that I think urban anthropology should study and should present as a richness, as a different episode of through which we can learn something. So, sorry for the boring picture, but anyway, during the Second World War, United States Army chose Palermo as an example of what was their power. So they choose to not focus on military objectives, but just bombing all the center in that cross along the two main streets. This kind of, well, the consequences are still visible because there are still buildings which weren't be rebuilt again. But the problem is that this kind of trauma creates a lot of homeless, and then in the 15 and the 16, local and national government decided to enlarge the city of something 20 times bigger than this, and construct a lot of public houses in the downtown, letting the historical center completely dead. So the idea of the new boroughs, something like Le Corbusier borough, so dormitory places without service, without squares, without a real life, broken completely the traditional tissue of the center, which was craft markets and noble and poor people living together, maybe in the same building. No, the poorest on the ground floor and the richer on top floor. The new experience of the city is something completely switched, no? In modernity, in which nobody arrives to achieve really, and in a landscape like this, in which who remained in the historical center, living in a place in which even 17th century churches and noble buildings still are completely destroyed, but people lives there in a cityscape like this. So ruins and buildings.
This is the center.
Yes, this is absolutely the center.
Now in the center, who lives immigrates?
No, mixed. So the population of the center, of course, at the beginning was very reduced, reduced from bombing, but almost 25,000 people still remain there. Of course, now this kind of panorama is shared by local people and illegal immigrants who find here a place which is, of course, cheaper, but even there is another fundamental element that after the 60s and the 70s, no, the city center was completely abandoned by the public agencies, so government, even police and welfare state, completely nothing, no? So a lot of buildings started to be abandoned and to fall down. So this kind of ruins was more and more improved. This kind of panorama start to increase in the number. A lot of time now, the public government of the city talks about Second World War destruction, but it's just a few of the buildings that are now fallen down. So this kind of retraction of the public service and policies create a state of informality in which people who live there, who still live there, find a way to have money, to manage their own life without public rules. So there are daily labors and informal markets and this kind of experience, but still living this kind of ruins. So starting to create shanty town that in the large of the decades now are houses, handy-made houses, but houses. And when international fluxes of migration start to cross to Palermo and to arrive in Palermo, immigrants find in this place not only a cheap way to stay in Europe, but even the tranquility of being apart from the great brother eyes of the big brother eyes of the state, of the fortress Europe. So in this place, which of course is abandoned, no, is not a space of freedom, is a space in which there is the lack of policies, we can say, no, of the way in which a city work together for the welfare of everything, of everybody. But in this place, they can stay, for example, without police ruffling, without control, without being asked every minute for their documents and for this kind of experience. And then the lack of control which come from upstairs let this kind of spaces at the disposal of the creativity from the ground. So the spontaneous creativity of people, but even of artists who came from outside and decided to use this empty space as spot. And what is happened is that this kind of places now are used, for example, in the night by the people to do parties without need, with, of course, for free, so without paying, without control, without without the imposition of a space. And of course this carries on a lot of problems, no? Because maybe nightlife is increasingly active, but all the traditional activities of market, of craft are completely destroyed. Just some things keep on going, but without the net, no? the traditional net, which was destroyed, completely destroyed by the new city policies. But just to conclude, this is a street in the center in which in the 90s the old buildings fall down, and the only piece of wall which rests steady was that one with the Christ, with the Passion of Christ. So people of this area started to see something like a divine providence in this piece of wood, no? Even because in the moment in which the building fell down, nobody was inside. So
nobody died.
Nobody died. Yes, no. So this began the Christ of the ruins. But I think that the element very important is that even in very bad situation, cityscapes and experience of the people should find maybe a way to survive even culturally to this kind of destruction. And I think that when we talk about degradation and abandon and poverty, we never have to think that people who live in this kind of situation are something less. Because I think that mankind is able to manage in every situation. So I think the most important point, yes, of course, is that one to declare what is not going in the right way. But even I think we have to find a way in which people survive in this situation, creating something almost comfortable, even in the bad situation, in the troubles. It's finished.
Where do you live in Palermo?
No, now I live in the now I live in downtown I grew up in the center, not in this part, but now I live not far away from the sea, little borough.
But when all the building were built,
Yes.
no, the other now to just to get, because nobody wanted to spend money fixing that one, but they just
Yes.
built other popular houses.
Yes.
Now it's still like this, or now it's all Palermo City and it's nice also staying there?
No, it's horrible. No, I mean, this kind of city expansion means hundred of thousands of people living in horrible borough like the Zen, which
Yeah,
are
yeah, no, okay.
actually are monsters, no, eco monsters, urban monsters. So no. The new city has a lot of problem. Of course, drug dealing,
Okay.
city problems that the center had not. Of course, this was a poor area and is still a poor area, but the city didn't go toward better modernity. Even yes, people said we lived in 50 people in just a room. Now we have big apartments, so we kiss on the floor every time that we enter. But for example, the normal family have to take children out of the street and this kind very strict education to avoid drug addiction, bad contact. This
Bad networking.
yes, this kind. So it's something like a shifted, a divided experience of the city, and a lot of people lives in place in which there are just no opportunity of nothing. No welfare. People from Palermo, from the rest of the city, they say I'm going to Palermo when they move out of this neighborhood because it's something apart. No, it's another experience. People, bus lines don't cross the neighborhood. There are not big avenues that crosses the neighborhood. No, so people go there just to buy drugs and to refine something. For example, a stolen car. You went there. You say, did you see? And somebody said, maybe a friend or one of my friends. But you know, you have to do a gift to this boy, not for me, of course, but to this boy. No, this. So the experience of the majority of the city is the way in which they create ghettos. So the experience, nobody experience, because of course in a borough of 30,000 inhabitants, not everybody should be a thief. How can you steal? Or if everybody steals something, how can you steal something? So of course we are talking about criminal minorities. But if you have not experience of a place, you are scared about this place. And if all the experience that other people relate to you is drugs, illegal traffics, and this kind of stuff, you start to be scared more and more. That's the reason why people coming from Zen, for example, young boys and girls, said, I'm from another borough, a nearer borough, no, for example, because there is some stigma. Yes, exactly.
But I don't understand why government decided not to rebuild the place if it was the city center.
Because it was a great deal, no? So the Italian boom, more or less, it's something like this, no? So you have a lot of money from the new government, even helped by United States of America and something like this. Instead of rebuilding, what do you have? You can spread out your economy, pumping money, because it's everybody hit more. If you have to build a new building, you have to buy the land. So people don't know. you have to plan, so you need architects, you need a lot of this kind of people can say, famous architects can say, we are going to create the new socialist baroque, no? So a lot of interest, and the masses, the communist party say, okay, let's do it for a new working class, no? And this totally a shit, no? Horrible way to live is. But it was an enormous deal, really an
There's
enormous.
another place in Italy where there is the same. I mean,
Yes, of course. In a lot of, almost in every, no, something like this. Maybe just in Napoli, in another big cities, but this kind of reconstruction is a common experience all over the country.
And it expands much larger than that. Many of the things you're saying remind me of the city of the dead in Egypt and the favelas in Brazil. It's just the conception of Islam, that it's in the middle of the city, and how does the city interact with that, and how and who ends up living there. And
Yes, a strategy to create big divisions inside the city, which is, of course, easier to control because
but not only division, I think it's more of trying to find an alternative way of living within the city, because the city in itself can in many times become very oppressive, and this is why, for instance, in the favela in Brazil, the favelas are in Rio, for instance, they are in the middle of the city. You have in the middle of like a very rich neighborhood, you will find a favela, and there's like, they're like, okay, all of this is very oppressive, we'll find a place in the middle of it that we are like have our own community. And just the sense of community is very important, a bubble of community within a city.
yes, but I think that many times the place in which you that arrived from countryside or that you are an immigrant, the place in which you can settle is not always your choice. It's something that they let to you. I think we have to study the way in which government manage the creation of places like this. I think that yes, city in itself means network. So not the contemporary city, but the modern city. So for example, if you are in a place like this with an enormous density, of course with a lot of problem, but density, so people stay together, talks together, no? People are square, people stay in bars, people mix experience even with noblemen, with rich men, with other. It's a city, it's a real city, no? So I think it's for a government, for the power, we can say, is easier to control a city full of ghettos than a place in which everybody share the same landscape, because something is more restricted. If you that's the reason why now in Paris, in places like this, people just don't go outside of the center, because if you go there, it's a dangerous place. So dangerous areas are more or less a new experience. What my father related me about living in Palermo is not what I live. I think everybody of us. But just this. Okay.
Thank you very much, Eugenio.